Welcome to The Know, I'm Mica Burton.
I'm Miles Luna.
First we had a story about No Man's Sky, and now we've got another story about one of the biggest space wrecks in recent memory, Mass Effect Andromeda.
Bioware may have announced a new patch for the game yesterday to add more dude romance options.
Oh yeah.
But that probably wasn't enough to stop today's news, because now we've got a new report about Mass Effect Andromeda's troubled development and why the game fell apart leading up to its release.
The report, which is pulled from multiple anonymous sources within Bioware, sheds even more light on what went on behind the scenes, ranging from totally rebuilding the game within 18 months to problems with internal Bioware politics, and even Bioware knowing ahead of time that it would get a mediocre reception and living with it, because, you know, they could just release a better sequel later anyway.
Hooray for modern game development. This report comes from Kotaku's Jason Schreier, who spent 3 months doing some very nice investigative work, gathering quotes and details from a dozen different sources who worked on Mass Effect Andromeda about what went wrong with the game.
And according to Schreier, the development of Andromeda was turbulent and troubled, marred by director change and multiple rescopes, an understaffed animation team, technological challenges, communication issues, politics, a compressed timeline, and brutal crunch.
Yeah, whenever you don't like something, it's best not to probably blame it on one person or thing and realize that this shit is hard and there's a lot of moving parts. So hey, buckle up for this one. The report claims that while Bioware started development on Mass Effect back about 5 years ago, the brunt of the work happened mostly in the last year and a half, because the game was constantly behind schedule.
And based on the report, the desire from the beginning was to make Mass Effect Andromeda realize the promise of Mass Effect 1, a game that was all about exploration. When Andromeda finally hit pre-production in 2013, a big part of the exploration component had to do with procedurally generating random planets, so No Man's Sky.
Don't say its name!
I'm sorry!
Which is actually something we've heard about Andromeda before. Back in March, Mass Effect producer Fabrice Condominas, is how I'm choosing to pronounce that name, revealed that Bioware dabbled with a procedural planet generation system that ultimately didn't pan out.
But now we've got a bit more detail about why. Bioware Montreal reportedly had a ton of problems with EA's Frostbite engines, and several teams were having little luck making visually interesting planets with the procedural tools, which, hey, we've seen that before in No Man's Sky too.
Don't say the name!
I'm sorry!
After many, many months of experimentation, a decision was made to go from hundreds of planets down to 30, and then from 30 down to 7.
Well, they must have crammed the side quests from all those hundreds of planets into the 7 because there was simply way too much shit to do in the game.
The Frostbite engine problems were nothing new to Bioware either, who similarly had a great deal of difficulty getting EA's proprietary playground working on Dragon Age Inquisition. One developer told Kotaku, "It's been painful. The pain started with Dragon Age Inquisition and continued on with Andromeda as well."
Yikes. Some of the bigger problems kicked up in 2014 when politics marred the game's development, according to the report. Sources told Kotaku that there was infighting between Edmonton and Montreal, and a lot of people left the project, a lot of Canadians saying sorry to each other. It was a big mess.
Super big mess. Some of that actually matches a Glassdoor review spotted for the company back around March, which criticized Bioware for no symbiosis between the studios, and that Montreal in particular was a revolving door of talent.
That was also the time when some big-name directors left Bioware, including Casey Hudson, the executive producer of the original trilogy, and Gerard Lahaine, the actual director of Mass Effect Andromeda up until that point.
One side effect of all those people leaving the project? Understaffing, which hit one department in particular, and I bet you can guess which one it was.
It was animation! If you guessed it, you win a prize. Oh, Miles.
It's so hard.
The report also details some struggles with the game's animation team in particular, as they were kept small throughout most of the project, which is not a good thing and led to outsourcing the game's animation to a number of studios and disagreements about the technology they should use, which is, as I said before, not a good thing.
Yeah, that was a not easy to win situation. Some of that also jives with similar reports made by gaming historian Liam Robertson from a few months back. At the time, Robertson revealed that multiple Bioware and EA sources had told him that most of the game's animation problems stemmed from outsourcing the animations to other EA studios. We also heard similar things on our end as well, specifically related to the technology pipeline and political struggles going on within Bioware.
From the sound of it, the game was very far behind where it should have been at almost every point in its development, resulting in many of the final teams, you know, the ones that make everything good and shiny, constantly working and reworking parts of the game up until the last minute.
Poor bastards. That led to some major, awful crunch, according to Kotaku's sources. It also meant the game was constantly getting worse in its last stretch, rather than better, because more stuff was breaking rather than getting fixed.
Another developer told Kotaku, "You have to lock all your tech into pre-production to move into production." One that was not locked was facial animation. It was flagged in 2014 as one of the major risks of the project.
All of that led up to one of the more interesting parts of Schreier's report, the release window of the game. Apparently, BioWare knew ahead of time that Andromeda wasn't going to be great, and that was thanks to mock reviews.
But for those of you who don't know, mock reviews are generally handled by a game publisher or its PR firm. They're a chance for developers to get some last-minute opinions, and PR firms typically know what's going to be heavily criticized in a game before it comes out. So mock reviews give developers a way to make some changes before the game gets finalized.
Schreier wrote in the report, when the mock reviews came in for Mass Effect Andromeda, BioWare's leads were relieved. The Metacritic was expected to be in the low to mid 80s, according to 2 sources. Although Andromeda's developers knew the game wasn't perfect, they were fine with a score like that. If they hit somewhere between 80 and 85, they could use what they built for Andromeda to make a sequel that was way better.
Just, you know, make the next game the good one. That's a bang-up strategy. Miles, you should use that from now on.
Yeah, okay, I'll work on that, but then we all know what happened next. Thanks to EA Access, gamers got their hands on the game and all of its problems early.
Yikes.
Leading to massive influx of goofy-ass GIFs ahead of schedule. Following that came the bad reviews. The game is sitting at a 71 on Metacritic, and then the damage was done.
And we all know the rest from that point. The bad reaction was enough to effectively kill the Mass Effect franchise, or at the very least throw it in ice like Captain America. But hopefully it'll come back better and stronger and confused about pop culture references, and he'll be beautiful and blue-eyed with blonde hair.
Come back to us, Mica.
I'm sorry.
Come back to us. So, nothing we've heard here is too surprising. And again, matches with other reports we've heard about political infighting, mandates from EA, and some overall problems with the production itself.
The effects of Andromeda's stumbling launch were felt around the industry as well, to the point where EA was asked during a recent earnings call if Mass Effect Andromeda's bad reaction was the reason for BioWare's delayed new IP, Dylan.
It'll be interesting to see how EA fields questions about Mass Effect at E3 this week, and whether or not they'll be speaking about BioWare's new IP at all.
So what do you guys think of this report about all of Mass Effect Andromeda's problems? Let us know in the comments.
And maybe don't pre-order next time. For future updates for more video game disasters, remember to like this video, and if you're new around here, subscribe to The Know. This report comes from Kotaku's Jason Schreier, not sure I pronounced that right.
Schreier.
The Frostbite engine problems were nothing new to BioWare either, who similarly had a great deal of difficulty getting EA's proprietary playground working on Dragon Age Inquisition. Do you want to take that again, or should we just leave that?